Okay, cool. It says Brock was live.
Does it?
Sweet. Now, how do I?
It's working?
Yeah, I think so. It says you're live. I'm gonna
Oh,
quote tweet
perfect.
this.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started then. How's
Mm.
everybody doing tonight? We're gonna go over. I just figured I haven't done this in a while, and the this is good review, just like of flow stuff and how you're kind of how I like to look at it in terms of looking at charts in conjunction with options flow and how that all kind of fits together. I know we have quite a few newer members in our Discord, so I want to just kind of give a refresher on that. As a reminder that we are Uncharted Territories, the name of our Discord. We do live streaming, all this kind of stuff really consistently. We have a handful of really cool traders in here. So if you guys are interested, making sure that you can go on my Twitter and see this really twisted looking picture of Alex Jones holding a Christmas present. You can click that. It's from last year. I'm not changing this. But if you're interested in our Discord, Uncharted Territory, all the information's right there. I did want to cover a couple things that I saw today on the charts and on the options flow. I have a couple names that we're going to go through, and then if you guys have anything you want me to go over, let me know. Just tag me in on Twitter if you're on Twitter. Tag me in the Discord if you're in Discord, and let me know what you want me to look at, and I can kind of go over some basics. If you want me to go through like how to read options flow, I can. But why don't we just go through a couple charts that I have in mind? um, that we that I'm looking at, and we'll just kind of go from there. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. Flow on a small cap company, not sure if there's much flow. It's called Tesla. I've never heard of it, so I don't know what that's like. Good luck trading that. And that is a funny running joke, right? That what's the flow on Tesla? Because and just FYI, guys, the flow that always stands out to me is going to be the ones on the weird names. So let's actually start with the name that came up today. And just FYI, for anybody on this call, Black Box Stocks is my preferred system for options flow. If anyone's interested in learning this or getting a subscription or want to get any more information about it, I do have a referral link in my bio, or you can DM me and I can talk you through it. But this is my preferred source of options information. I pretty much use this every day in conjunction with my trading and through TradingView, my charts. So I kind of like to pair those two together. But this was one name that I came across today was CENX. Again, not a super common name that we see very frequently. Um, I'll kind of just blow this up so you guys can see what this looks like. But basically, right off the bell, they came in. So the way that you read options flows, you start from the bottom, the first line here, and then work your way up. So you can see that these guys came in. Market opens at 9:30. These are in Eastern time zone timestamps. So you can see that they came in right at the bell and they bought these January 2026 $35 strikes. Obviously, they're buying the calls, and you can see that this was executed. This is the number of contracts here, and then this is the contract price, the premium that they're paying. And then right here is the amount that they purchased. So what's interesting is that so you'll see, I mean, they came in at 931, 934, 935, 936, 938. So within the matter of like what the first like 8, 10 minutes of open, they've already bought 300, 300, 600. That's a million. So this is, I mean, that's quite a bit of premium. That's like 1.5 million in premium in the CENX $35 calls. So this is what I would consider like unusual options flow, right? Is that you're seeing these orders in real time. This is what I really like about this black box system. And there's a couple different things that you're looking at on here. So if you look at the contract price, it's increasing on each one of these lines, which is indicative of buying. So you can see 2.2, 2.476, 2.5, 2.75. So as these are getting bought into, the contract price is increasing. And additionally, this implied volatility is also increasing as well, which is a good sign of buying. And this did come across as an alert from the black box system as well today. So this made me just kind of look at it. I near the end of the quarter and the end of the month, I do like to look at monthly and quarterly charts. And this is definitely it's definitely got an interesting look to it. I mean, this monster base in here. basically going back to 2015, and it's now testing these highs up here. I mean, this is just monster. I mean, this is just a huge. I mean, this is years. I mean, this is going back to 2009. This has basically just been between. It's just basically consolidating in this range here. So, kind of interesting to look at this with the options flow. You know, this is something I would trade. Maybe, maybe not. I think this is something. If I'm going to trade this, I'm probably going to buy shares of it rather than buying options. That's just kind of my personal preference. I'm not really familiar with this name, so I don't really know how it trades. If you go down to a smaller time frame. Again, it's challenging these kind of highs here. It looks like they had this sort of break off this consolidation here into these EMAs and then a nice gap up today. Nice buying patterns in here too. Nice volume throughout this here. So this is the aluminum, Century Aluminum Company was one of the names they came up with. It kind of goes into the next name I was going to bring up today was FCX. So this is another name that came through that had unusual options flow on this today. And I'm going to go, uh, let's see these. So this is, so they came in and these traders were purchasing these 1031 $40 calls on FCX. And I think that they started off at about noon and the alerts came in and they basically, I mean, they swept them for a good, let's see, a good half hour. They really started to build a position in here. And this ended up with, let's see, 66,000 in volume. And I don't know what I'd have to look up the actual. Sometimes I do cross reference to usual whales just to look at, because the premiums are a little bit cleaner in here to see how much premium was in here today. But yeah, these FCX 40s, they had $8 million in the chain today. So I will be checking the OI on these, the open interest, to see how much of these get carried over. Um, they did come in. What's interesting too with this name is if you look back on Friday, they also hit this name with quite a bit of size. From what I remember, I gotta see if I could find the actual order. Um, but they came in with a ton of, maybe it was these. Yeah, they came in with these. So this is from Friday. They came in on these January 2027 calls for $38. So obviously the October ones are a lot sooner, which kind of catches my attention, and they're decently out of the money. Um, Now, from a technical standpoint, I mean, this chart is kind of ugly. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if there's news coming for this or what's going on with all the options flow we've seen over the last couple of days. Even on a weekly, I mean, it's just kind of boring. It's kind of a slow mover, but
This
I
thing was
think that,
interesting. There was actually so there was like some news. I think they had like a bad like landslide at a plant in Indonesia, I think I saw. And they announced they were shutting it down until like potentially 2027. And that's why it sold
whoa,
off those 2 days there.
oh,
I saw it
interesting.
in the
Okay.
pre-market news. But it's interesting because for that, that's a lot of volume, dude. Like that to me looks like, some like capitulation to me.
Ru-
Like the chart's not pretty, but it looks like sellers are capitulating and there's a buyer hidden in there. In my opinion, that's what it looks like. So I don't know if there's news coming, but that's what's going on there. But it's the
Yeah.
highest volume in 10 years in back-to-back days.
Oh, is it really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so maybe just someone's coming in and hoping for some mean reversion or something along those lines. It's funny because I was talking to Taylor about this, T-Lam. And he was talking, I don't know if this, I think he was talking about NUE. I don't know if it's a similar sector, but he was just talking about like, I think it was like building these data centers. I don't know if that's a similar industry or not. Does Nucor do steel? I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head, but he was looking at that, like these AI infrastructures and these data centers, they're going to need like materials and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's a play on this as well, but I think it's, oops. I think what's interesting on that is, like you said, is the big volume in here. And again, to have, one day of call buying isn't going to catch my attention, but when you see it over multiple days in a row, I mean, these guys are already doing pretty good considering it was up 5% over the day. So I mean, in my opinion, I'm not a big like knife catching trader. I mean, if I see big call flow come in on a big capitulation like this, I'm going to wait that out personally. I'm not going to try to catch that knife because you will see guys come in and try to catch it. And it's just not my opinion. I'd rather trade a better setup, in my opinion. But something to keep in mind, something to keep on your radar for sure. I think if you want to take a stab at this, I mean, these aren't unreasonable. I mean, there's plenty of time on these. So this could be a decent starter position, but the fact that they came in 2 days in a row is kind of what caught my attention on that. So, um, anything in the chat you guys have? Let's see. Um, yeah. So if you guys ever want us to look up something, we're always happy to do that. So the other name that came up today, which is like, I've been watching options flow for what, 4 or 5 years, and it's not very common where you see a name come in, and you just think to yourself, like, what the hell are these guys doing? So these guys came in. I got how many alerts on this today? 5 alerts on PayPal, which is extremely unusual. I mean, you'll get 2 dozen alerts on Tesla, Nvidia, whatever. Trade calls get bought, calls get sold, etc., whatever. But on this PayPal here, I mean, they really hammered this. I mean, you don't see that very frequently, is in other words. Like if I go through here, I'm going to try to take a look through this flow a little bit better here. But there was a couple lines in here, like these here. So they came in this morning and they hit these 12/18/2027 $110 strike. And they bought pretty good size with them. I mean, there's a million right here between these two lines, and then another million here. So that's 2 million in way out of the money calls. And even though these are being filled, so that just from a flow standpoint, this is first filled at the ask. This A is for ask. This is at the bid, and this is at the bid. So, I mean, could they be flipping these? It's hard. I don't think so. I think that we'd have to check open interest to be sure. But what's interesting is here's the implied volatility is going up on each line. So I would make the assumption that these are being bought into. Plus, they're so far out that I think the spreads are probably kind of funky on these. So, but there was a ton of alerts on here. I actually opened up some of these today. I actually do like this chart a little bit better than which ones did I open? These 90s. I like this chart a little bit better than like the FCX, for instance. And what's interesting too is that PayPal in the middle of the day, it had like a huge drawdown in the middle of the day. I was down like 3% off the highs. Yeah, this huge candle. I think that was because of the Etsy kind of Shopify deal, but it closed decently. And I mean, it wasn't just one chain on this that got hit. It was like October calls, December calls, March calls, January next year calls, all different strikes. Like it's very unusual to see that. So I wonder if they have news coming or what's going on with this. But I think this is something to keep on your radar. It's not the worst looking chart. You kind of get this big gap down here, this big bear gap. I don't know if it's probably earnings related. Yeah. And you get this big gap down, and then you kind of get this sort of trend line forming here and decent buying volume today. And I wonder if this wants to try to fill up some of this gap in here. That's kind of why I was looking at it. And again, just the options flow is going to put your eyes in on names that you normally might not be looking at. And I think that that's kind of the beauty of combining the two, is combining technical analysis with options flow to kind of put your eyes in the right spots. So that was another name I had on my list today. Let me go and make sure. Hold on one second. I just want to make sure that there's no comments in here of people asking things. No, I think we're good. Okay. Let's go. Let's keep going then. So one of the other names I had on my list today was SBET. So again, not a name I'm normally taking a look at, but I know some of these crypto names are really ripping today. A lot of the miners were up. I think Riot was up 10%, Mira was up. So kind of some of these crypto related names here. So again, kind of the concept of using options flow as a screener. Um, and it's funny because you will see, I mean, Discord knows this, but we'll see flow come in and then they'll get some kind of announcement later that day or like immediately after that, which is kind of hilarious. And it's so blatant that you can find these guys on here. But I did trade these today, these here. So these SBET, these 1031 $20 calls. So these came in closer to the tail end of the day at 214. So they come in with a 5,000 in size. So 5,000 contracts are purchased at $1 or two, and they drop 510K in here. And then they come in 2 minutes later and they buy another 400K And again, if you look over, this is the tell. So if you're ever looking at options flow and you don't know what's going on, look at the implied volatility. If this is juicing, these are being bought into. And additionally, same idea, the contract price is increasing here. So I bought right when I saw the second line come in, because that's 900K and those expire in basically a month. And that's not really common to see that. And when you see these large contract sizes, if you see 5,000 and then 3,000 right after that, and they're fairly cheap contracts too, they're kind of fun to trade because they move pretty quickly. So I think I squeezed 30% out of these in like maybe 10, 15 minutes. And if you look at the chart, this actually has a kind of a cool look to it. So this is kind of what I had on SBET today. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. You kind of get this downtrend line, and it looks like it might want to try to break this. And nice strong looking candle today. I would like to see a little bit more volume in here, but maybe something like that's coming. But this doesn't look, I don't think this looks bad. I think this is kind of an interesting look as it's just been kind of tightening up. It kind of fits the theme that we've been seeing with the BMNR and this, and then a couple other crypto names that we've been kind of tracking as well. So I did not swing these. I got my 30% and got out just because I think that with this government shutdown thing, I think that having less overnight exposure is probably a smart idea. And getting near the end of the month, I'm not trying to swing, good sized positions. So I just took my 30% on these. I would be curious to look at the open interest in the morning to see how these look. To see, because I mean, again, they're pretty far out of the money. I mean, they're hitting these with pretty good size and they're $20 calls. So, we could see these pop, $20 is, I mean, that would be like basically this resistance up in this area here. If I put on some longer term moving averages, you get some of these moving averages starting to get stacked up in here. And we know this is one of those names that can move pretty well in one day. So kind of a fun little day trade that I took on that today. And depending on how the open interest looks tomorrow, I may re-enter on like an inside day and see how that looks. But yeah, this is when you get the alerts on names that you don't really see very frequently, it does make you kind of look at it. And then you look at the size that you're seeing on here, and it kind of makes sense that to at least, take an opening trade on this. So but yeah, so that was one of the names that I had on my list today. Um, Anybody in the Discord have any questions here? Let me see here. Yeah, the declining volume El Retro is kind of interesting, right? Um, yeah, Coreweave's it's on the list. I'll get there too. I'm just looking through our Discord here. Tesla or Spy, I never heard of either one of those, so I can't help you. Let me see here. You know what? Let's just take a look. Oh, can you take a look at LW? No, again, I'll look. I mean this line came in today, but I don't know if this is. It's being filled at the bid, and it's a block order, so this kind of like a limit order. So the guys that know flow, and especially on the black box system, they won't really. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this could be just a really illiquid contract, and they got filled. We don't have enough information, I guess, in other words. Um, what does LW even do? I don't know. Lamb Weston Holdings. This chart's pretty jumpy. I don't really have a good read on this. Sorry. I mean, I don't really see anything in the options flow here. I mean, I can look over a longer time frame, but make sure I don't have the filter on. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty typical options flow. It's pretty messy. Looks like there's some puts being written in here. I think this is writing. These are kind of interesting here. These 11, 21, 42, 50s. So this is an example. I want to do that. Oops, hold on. Not working. This system's so jumpy sometimes. Let me go back. Hold on. So I would go with the assumption that these are being written. So look, this is put writing. So I get this question sometimes of what does put writing look like, and how do you know if it's put writing? So these came in on 9/26, that was what, Friday? That was the Yeah, it's not Friday. So they came in and then they hit these 11/21 42.50 puts. But again, they're being filled at the bid here, which B is for bid, which means that they're writing them. So they're anticipating that the stock is above 42.50 by the expiration of 11/21. And in my experience, put writing will indicate upside in the stock typically, because again, they're collecting 300K in premium here to sell these puts, so that they're hoping that the stock gets a pretty big pop and that the premiums will go down as a result of that. So I actually do have I don't know if I can find it in here. Let me see if I can find my example. Hold on. I actually had this overlaid. I had us. So just in terms of just kind of like a quick example from Tesla of some put writing. Um, so this I made this up a trade review for myself recently, but this was on Tesla. So I'll show you guys what this looks like. So Tesla, I actually had a really great trade on this. This was actually one of my biggest wins for the whole year. Um, and when I saw it was particularly the line on the bottom part of this chart. They came in on 9/11, September 11th, very Alex Jones fitting. So they came in and they wrote these March 2026 $355 puts. So they basically wrote at the money puts, and they sold $29.42 million worth of puts. Now, the amount of collateral that you're going to put up to sell those kind of puts, I mean, I couldn't do the math off the top of my head, but it's a lot. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 70 million, something like that. And they sold 6,000 contracts. So that's some serious money. So when I saw those came in, I bought 1,000 shares of TSLL and I still have them. And I think I'm up 60% on them so far. Um, I guess when you can, and the other thing too I loved about this is like they're buying on this breakout here. They're buying this big consolidation breakout that everyone was watching for months. And that gave me a ton of confidence to enter this trade with some pretty good size because it's very rare to see these big put writers lose. Like you'll see call buyers sometimes get smoked, but to see big put writers get smoked is really uncommon because essentially what they're doing is the way I think about put writing is that you're getting paid to make a limit order. So they're basically selling they could, I mean, they could be assigned these, right? They could be assigned at that 355 strike, that they're willing to buy the stock at that price because providers are cash secured puts. They could be selling these as kind of a placeholder if they wanted to buy it. But um, the fact that this was below the bid as well. So you can see under the details tab, it says BB, which is below bid. It's a pretty aggressive order that they're selling all these at the money puts. And my interpretation of that is that they're looking for a really big upside move, which is exactly what we got. I mean, this thing ripped. Oh my God. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm up 60% on my TSLL. So you do the math on that. But this is a good example of kind of how I'm looking at things. I'm kind of looking to see, is the stock consolidating, right? Are there puts being sold and calls being bought? Like, what does that all look like? And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, is that in my opinion, if you see really big call buying on a stock that's consolidating and putting in like a couple inside days, I mean, that's probably one of the best convictions you can have out there. I don't have a really good example of that, but I'd probably have to go through my notes and look. But in my opinion, if you see, oh, I did want to cover this. If you do see like an inside day forming and you see big call flow or put flow or whatever, that's a good time to enter. Like for instance, like Tilray. I mean, what was it up 40% today or whatever? And of course, they were buying calls. And anyone that watches options flow knows how hilarious it is that they'll buy calls on something that's already up 60, 70% on the day. I mean, so yeah, this finished up 60% on the day. And I mean, it's not really my trading style to be buying to chasing stuff like that. I mean, you could have bought this. This is pulled in this. This actually gave up a really nice trade. This actually ended up being looking pretty nice because you get a pretty decent pullback into these moving averages here. But the point I'm making, I guess, as you listen to me ramble, is just if something's forming an inside day and it's in an uptrend and it's kind of consolidating nicely, and you start to see some pretty good size orders in it, I think it's worth taking a look at because they're trying to buy get in this before the breakout is kind of my opinion on that. So, um, yeah, Rivian was another name I was looking at. Let me see if there's something. I know that there was a this had some flow on it too today. It was pretty far out. Yeah, so so Rivian had these again, they're buying time on these. These are June of 2026, $22 calls on here. Um, so again, they're pretty, I mean, really far out of the money, and they're buying these with not a ton of size. It's not like millions, but they're more spec size, I would say. But they're coming in and they're so it just for the people watching what the hell this means. So this white line means that it has not exceeded open interest for the day. So the open interest in this particular chain was 898. So this 745 did not exceed open interest, so that's why it's not highlighted. But these purple lines mean that the open interest in that chain has been exceeded. So it's safe to say that someone's probably buying into them or increasing their position size. And additionally, these yellow lines mean that they are opening orders. That means that they've exceeded open interest in a single line. So the system will flag it as gold. It's a little bit easier to see that they're being opened up. So again, some of the same thing I've talked about multiple times now is the implied volatility is going up, the contract price is going up. Rivian is one of those names that's just kind of been consolidating. I mean, it's been kind of stuck. I mean, I'm gonna have to look on like the monthly on this to see because they're buying so. I mean, again, knowing your time frame is important because they're buying such far out of the money contracts. But I mean, and it's kind of actually this looks kind of cool on the monthly. You can say something like something along the lines of this, some kind of consolidation like this. Um, yeah, it actually looks kind of cool. It reminds me, it reminds me of I want to say, yeah, it reminds me of you. I was looking at these two charts. They're very similar look. So maybe Rivian puts in a similar kind of monthly sequence as this Unity did here. Or maybe that's what those guys are trying to take a look at. But yeah, I mean, it caught my eye. It's just something to keep an eye on here is that they're targeting these $22 strikes. So um, definitely pretty interesting. So let's see. What else do you guys have? When you look at Lulu Flow, for instance, what could you make of those puts being so far to the money? Oh, you're saying, hold on. Let me see if I gotta see what he's on. At the ass, dude, I gotta get you on here one of these times so you can I can hear from you and you can help explain some of this stuff. So the question is, and I get this question quite a bit. Um, People always freak out when they see these. So this is arbitrage flow. This is directionalist. There's I don't even know how to explain how they do this. It's some kind of like really deep involved trading strategy. And now people will get excited because they're seeing like these massive premiums in here, like 27 million, $30 million in premium. But it has something to do with like there's like market makers and they'll buy these super deep in the money puts. And I don't know if they execute them or how they do this, but at the end of the day, it's really useless. It's not you can't really it's not directional. And sometimes the open interest doesn't even carry over to the following day. So if you've ever see anybody on Twitter saying, "Oh my God, they're buying these Lulu $350 puts with $70 million in premium," just unfollow them. They don't know what they're talking about. It's not directional. It's not going to be anything that's going to be useful for you guys. So if you see any super deep in the money puts, you can just ignore them. Long story short. Let's see here. There's a lot of questions here in the chat. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Have I done NXE yet? I have not. This monthly is beastly. What a strong looking chart. Um, and that's also a good habit for anybody. It's just if you ever are in doubt, if you pull up a monthly chart, it'll kind of give you some confidence. But this thing has been like just surfing these MAs the whole way up. I don't know if there was options. I don't remember. I think this maybe I hold on. I think they come out on Friday on this. I have so many flows in my head. I can't keep track of all of them. Oh yeah. Yeah, the good reminder. So they came in and hit these NXE. Um, let's see here. Yeah. So they came in and hit these $10 calls for October monthly expiration, October 17th, $10 calls. It came in with 400K. A block order is essentially like a limit order. So it's just through one exchange, and they have a predetermined price where they get filled at. The sweep is more aggressive. That's essentially meaning that they're going through multiple exchanges to get their order filled as quickly as possible. So my guess is that this big order was some kind of institution buying. I mean, they're buying 12,500 of these really cheap calls and dropping 400K in premium. And then these two subsequent orders are probably retail traders. I mean, there's only 30K and 10K after that. But they're targeting the $10 strike on this. So, I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable. This thing has just been kind of grinding up. Um, I always have a hard time trading charts like this that kind of just grind up. I'd rather see some kind of flagging or some consolidation. It's kind of hard from in my this is just my personal preference to buy stuff like this, but sometimes looking at you can see on a weekly it's a little bit more convincing here, is that we got through essentially this big, yeah, right here. So you get resistance, 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 comes back down, comes back up, breaks through this resistance, and it's now trying to continue through this. So I think on the weekly it looks pretty good. I mean, really nice VPA, some really big buying in through here too. So I don't think those $10 calls are unreasonable. I don't have any of them, but certainly some pretty good size in them for sure. Let's see. Crisp. I looked at this like a while ago, and I didn't take a trade on it, and T-Lamb told me to buy some, and I didn't buy any of it. And I have it all drawn up on my chart. That's exactly what I thought I was going to do, and I did nothing with it. You guys ever put stuff on your watch list and then forget to watch it? I do that all the time. Um, I don't remember if there was call flow on this, but I mean, this is just a really nice looking chart. Um, ArcG is another name that, yeah, this looks great. I mean, there's really nothing not to like about this. I wish I would have got in down here. And instead of, I mean, on a name like this that I'm not super familiar with, you probably would have been better off buying shares here and then kind of just riding the wave on this. I know Patrick was looking at ArcG as well, and really nice pullback here onto these EMAs in here. Nice looking. The volume looks excellent on this too. So this whole genomics sector looks pretty good. I don't know if there was any options flow on CRISPR recently, but I can take a look. Um, Nothing today. Not a super liquid name. We don't really see a lot on CRISPR, but let's see. They hit these 60s, so they hit these out of the money or at the money calls rather. These CRISPR 618 2026 $60 calls. They drop 200K in them, it's not bad. Let's see here. Yeah, overall, I mean, I would say this is pretty bullish. These are 90. There's some 90s in here. These are pretty nice. I would like to see sweeps on these personally, but again, they're not buying calls that expire next week. They're buying some pretty good time on these, but I mean, $90 strikes is crazy considering this is only at what, $60, something like that, 63, and they're buying $90 calls. So yeah, I think just a great looking chart. I think this is strong. I think it's set definitely keeping an eye on this sector. If we look at this over, we get down to the monthly, definitely, it's definitely starting to make some headway here and some pretty good volume in here. So this actually reminds me of another chart I was looking at. It's RIOT. This thing is such a monster. This is such a beautiful looking monthly chart. I don't have any of this. I don't know why. They came in and they hit these. Let me see if I could find it. I think it was on Friday they came in and hit these. I know I posted them, but these 40s. Let's see. So normally my order of operations is I always want to check the open interest on this to track it to make sure they're still holding their position. So They came in with 8,000 in volume, and then they came in the next day, and 7,800 of those are still there. So that is about as close as you're going to get to a full carryover. So these guys are targeting the $40 strike, and it's not crazy size. I mean, 200, 300, we'll call it 300, maybe some change in premium. But I mean, $40 strikes is hilarious. But I mean, by the way, this monthly chart looks like that doesn't seem unreasonable. I mean, that would put you into these monthly levels here. I mean, not crazy. I think the time frame's a little short. I mean, this is through January. That would be, one hell of a rip. But I still think this monthly chart looks sick. I mean, you look at this massive buying volume in here, and this nice consolidation break on the monthly is pretty powerful. So I think that, when you guys are looking through charts and you kind of get shaken out of things, I think looking at weekly and monthly charts is kind of overrated or underrated rather. Yeah, this thing is, look at all this volume that's been coming into this. I know, so I have there's a good amount of people that are bullish on miners. I know Mara's another one of those too, but what a great looking chart. Let me see here. Intel. Yeah, let's take a look at probably one of my least favorite names to trade, but maybe that's because I'm retarded. Um, so Intel, so they actually, it was on Friday, I want to say. There was so much flow on this name, it was just absurd. Like, I remember I text Keon about this, and I was like, this is the amount of flow that this had is just absurd. So I'm gonna try to dig through. This is an FYI, guys. This is what most options flow looks like. It's just there's so much to dig through, especially on big moves like Intel had on Friday. Um, and the way the system works is that you'll have to click through to see the actual chains through here, but there was something I saw. Yeah, I mean, the amount of options flow that Intel just call flow on Friday was just absurd. There was so much of it, and it was like nonstop the entire day. I must have gotten like a dozen alerts on Intel on Friday, I swear to God. And those Intel bulls are in particular, those guys will always buy like a 12% candle day, and then the next day they'll just they'll eat their drawdown, which is always hilarious. Um, like I remember, where was it? It was somewhere, I think it was in, where were they buying these calls? I think it was here. I think it was on this candle here that, let me see here. If I remember correctly, I think it was this 7% day. I think they were buying like calls with like crazy, crazy size, and then you get another gap up the next day, and then you get this consolidation here, which will eat through your premiums like nothing else. So Intel is one of those names, at least for the longest time, where you can track the options flow, but you'll see them. You can get a pretty decent um, discount if you track it and make sure that they're still trading in them or they're still holding those positions. But this actually this did end up forming a nice flag on here, which ended up getting broken out of with I think probably Trump news was this day is my guess. But yeah, but I actually pulled up the monthly chart over the weekend on this. I posted this on X, but yeah, this Intel really has a crazy look to it. So basically, you see all these trading below this kind of monthly support. You have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically almost a whole year, 8 months, 9 months of trading below these lows here, and then a big reclaim of this key level and then flipping that. And you have this big downtrend line here. So I think and look at the volume. I mean, this is certainly a name to keep on your radar for sure. Because the amount of options flow and calls that are coming into this is just it's insane. So um check Joby. Okay. And guys, if I missed anything on here, just send me a DM or just tag me. Anyone in the Discord can always tag me and I'll look up stuff because I got like a lot of requests. You guys got so many requests here. Um, yeah, I'll try to get through this. I'm not going to be on here for 2 hours digging through options flow, but I do want to make sure I'm going through Twitter and not missing anybody else on there too. But let me see here. You know what I might do later is I might go through this and I'll probably reply to these one by one because I get whenever I do workshops like this, I'm gonna get like 75 requests for different charts. And I'm happy to go through them, but I'm not gonna go all through them right now. But um I'll go through a couple though. Hut. Oh yeah, Hut's a good one because I took actually so um I took some Hut calls on Friday. So I don't remember which exact day it was. You know what? Let me just look. It was over the last week. You know what? If I do this, it'll be a little bit easier. I do like the unusual Whales platform for certain things. It's a little bit easier to navigate and find specifically certain chains that you've been tracking, as opposed to having to go and dig into the specific day. Like this contract lookup feature is like the single greatest thing for this platform. So I will compare the two of them. But so this is a good example. So Hut, these guys came in on 9/24. So if I go to that day here, um, so this is I'm going to pull this up so you guys can see this a little bit better. Yeah. So on 9/24, they came in and they hit these January $36 calls. So they are in the money a little bit, which is not bearish whatsoever. Again, look at the IV, 93 straight up to 102. So this is clearly buying. Contract price is increasing. I mean, how much premium was in on this day? I mean, 4 million. There was, I mean, that whole what day was this, the 24th? There was $11 million in premium on these. Okay. So I didn't enter these right when these, because these guys came in on this candle here. They came in on this candle here. I think they were probably looking at this consolidation to break out because you get this again, you get an insight. I almost did buy a bunch of these, but for whatever reason, I decided not to. Um, so you get a inside day after a big red day, consolidating, holding this 9 EMA. I mean, if you're just looking at that sequence there, you're like, and with the call flow, you're thinking that this is going to be a ripper. But then you get 2 days of gap down with that we've had over the last, Thursday and Friday last week. You get the gap down. So I actually entered these at a discount. So they entered these calls at between $7 and $9. These came in at $9.24. And you could see, so again, order of operations. You have this interesting flow with a ton of size that's compelling. The next day, you go in and check the open interest. You say, okay, these guys basically held their position in full. And I have not. And then, so you have 13,000 in volume, and the subsequent days is tiny. The open interest is still there. So you can make the assumption that these guys are still holding. They bought January calls. So they still got a pretty good amount of time on these. So I bought these actually. I got them in at $6. I think they hit 750 maybe this morning, I want to say. But I bought them on this 20 EMA in here. So I got them at a pretty good discount. I do have one or two left that I want to see if we can get back up here. Because again, these guys dropping $11 million in calls is not small. And these guys are still holding. But I was pretty happy with my entry on those because I waited to see how this was going to consolidate. And yeah, so I got an entry on these. So I guess the point I'm making is that you can get pretty good entries on some of this stuff if there's some time on it. Um, if you track your technical levels. So I was pretty happy with those. So I sold some of them this morning with this gap up, and I'm gonna hold a couple of them just to see if this keeps going. But um, what's interesting is these guys came in back here, and I know I made a comment in my Discord. To watch this name because I think they came in with like $37 calls or something like that. Something really oddly specific in this down in this range here. And I think they ended up going in the money. I was looking at them last night. So definitely, I mean, you can see that every time it's gotten down to this 20 EMA, it's been reactive off that. So I give me pretty good confidence that A, those guys are still holding, and B, there's a pretty good technical level to buy at. So that's kind of where I want to enter my position is on there. So um everyone keeps asking me. I am going to go through all these requests in our Discord and on Twitter, just so you guys know, but I'm not going to do that live because it's going to take forever. People keep asking me about OPAD. People always forget the winners and they always focus on the ones that's not doing anything. So this is another name. So OPAD is another name that I've been kind of just, this thing's been consolidating. So this volume bar here on Monday, August 25th is the highest volume ever on this name. Um, and you get this huge, what was it? 136% day, and then followed by this gigantic 85% candle. And now it's just consolidating this is like I mean, in my opinion, this is like the technical bull pennant, right? You get these big volume bars that are drying up here. I mean, the highest volume ever. This is probably close to maybe second highest volume ever. Another big day here. And this is just consolidating. This thing is volatile as shit. Like I've had, I mean, this was up like think like 10% at one day, and then now it's back. It closed red. And I do remember specifically, I'm gonna pull these up so you guys can see. So this is kind of a good example of using this system to screen for stuff. These right here. So this is what caught my attention here. These OPAD, they bought 417 2026 $5 calls, and they came in and they bought 5,500 contracts and they dropped 800K on that. That's a pretty good size order for a small name like this. And again, going to open interest, you can see they bought 6,000 contract or 6,000 in volume on that chain, and 5,400 was added to open interest the following day. So these guys are still holding. They have until April. So I think this is just a waiting game with this. You're probably better off just buying shares on this, honestly, than trying to use leverage on this because again, this thing is moving 136% in a day or 85% a day, this has some pretty good. I don't know what the ADR is on this, but this has some pretty good range on it. So, even if you buy shares on this and just wait for this breakout, it's been holding these moving averages fairly well. So, you can use leverage on this, but sometimes these kind of names you don't even need leverage for. So that's my 2 cents on that. Hi, Manrav, how are you? How's where are you, Brazil? You know what I'm gonna do is I'm going to hold on. You know what I'm going to do is that's all I have for myself right now. Just I want to cover. We went through PayPal, we went through CNX, went through FCX, went through SBET. Oh, let's do one more. Let's go through Coreweave because everybody keeps asking me about it, and I think that still has a good setup. So Coreweave, again, this name is not the amount of options flow that this has had is just absurd, and I think for good reason. So let's make this the last one we cover tonight because I do have a couple other things I want to get done, and I do want to reply to everyone's messages, but. Some of this stuff's kind of hard to do on the fly, but so everyone's watching this core weave, right? Everyone's seeing this. I still think this looks great. I mean, you get this big, nice break on pretty good volume here, down here. This break of this sort of trend line here, and the options flow has been really telling on this name. And I want to see if I can find. I want to say that there's. I can find it. There was 2027, maybe it's $130 calls, maybe. Let's see if how good my memory is. Let's see. Maybe it's not. I might have to go and dig through the chains because I don't remember exactly what day it came in on. But there was some massive leaps on this core weave. Like it was like $19 million in premium. It was absurd. I have to go back and dig through the chain and I'll post it so you guys can see it. But I don't even know how there was one day, I think it was, what day was this? One of these days, this Thursday maybe, it's had this gap up on news and it's kind of been consolidating after breaking out this. I know on Friday though, this thing had some really good size on it, and I will cover that because it's easier to find. Let's see here. Let's see here. Was it near the end of the day? Oh, you know what? I had the wrong day. It was on Friday, the 26th, not the 19th. Yeah, these right here. So they had these 150. So again, these guys have not been buying weeklies. They're buying time on these. Like all the call flow I've seen on Coreweave has been like January 2027, $200 calls. I mean, that's a really aggressive strike there. Additionally, they had this is these shout out to Nooney who put these on my radar. These they came in and they bought these CoreWeave again, January 15th of 2027, $150 calls. They bought 2,000 contracts and dropped 7 million on these. You go in and check the open interest, pretty good carryover here, 1,800 got added to the open interest there. Um, and again, I think that this eventually goes. I think this is probably going to rip. I think that, you just need to buy some time on it if you're going to play options or use like a leverage ETF or something like that. And, kind of use some of these moving averages potentially as entry levels. And I think this is going to go. I just don't know when. And I think that that kind of coincides with what I'm seeing on the options flow is that they're going through and they're buying size and time, which is something that you want to see. They're not buying, I mean, there's weeklies in here, but they're not buying, next week calls. They're really dropping size in this name with some time on it. And that seems to be consistent. I don't know if this had anything really interesting today that I can think of off the top of my head, but um, see, this is what you guys get to see is that, oh, here's a pretty good size order. Oh, this is in the money. The thing you'll see is that options flows 90% of this stuff is worthless. And it's the 5 to 10% that actually makes a difference. But yeah. So this is the but yeah, this is the options platform that I use is black box stocks. This is what I pretty much use all the time. And this is how I kind of look through this throughout the day with the charts pulled up and kind of pair those two things together. Um, I only planned for an hour on this, and we're getting close to the hour here. So if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat, and I will. Oh, thank you. At the ask this is exactly what I was looking. See, dude, I'm gonna bring you on here one time with me, so I'm not being a one man show. It's kind of hard to talk and look through options at the same time. Um, these came in on 912, so let me see if I can show you what these look like here. Thank you very much. Is this what these? Yeah, these. Okay. Okay. So let's go through this. So this will be my last example. But so on the 12th of September, they came in and they bought these 9/18/2026 calls. So basically a year out. They bought these year out calls, $130 strike, and this stock was trading at between 105 and 112. It's a pretty big range, but and there you can see that they're buying 1.9 million, 5 million, 2 million. I mean, I think this chain ended up with like 19 million or something ridiculous in it. And this was on 9/12, which was here. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? I actually remember this because they bought these, and I actually thought it was a really it's rare to see whales enter with a really good entry, but they bought them. Let me turn this off. I think I actually bought some of these. I don't know if I think I sold them. I think I bought just one contract in a separate account. And I think I ended up selling these, but they were up like 40%. So they bought on this 9 EMA touch. I mean, this thing touched the 9 EMA like to the penny almost. And they entered those and they continued to basically drive the price up. Um, and then you can see the follow through that those had. And these ended up yeah, going in the money. So I actually, you know what? Like, why don't we just look? I wonder if these guys are still in this. So you can see here. So 912 is when they came in. They came in with 7,800 contracts. The next day it carries over. You get the increase in the open interest here. And then they come in, it seems like they came in the next day and they bought more. So 3,100 in the next day in volume, and then another increase in open interest. And then ever since then, it looks like these guys are still holding then. So my guess is that they're still holding their position based on the open interest, because it's still sitting at 9,500, which is basically the sum of these 2 days, 912 and 915. And they came in and they hit this with really good size. And it looks like based on this chart here that they're still holding these. So um I still think these guys are planning for a big move. So I guess at the end of the day, you can see that this is really consolidating well, and the amount of flow you're seeing in this is really remarkable. So if this is 912, let's see. This is, sometimes the system is not the easiest to use. This is going to be impossible to find. But yeah, based on that open interest, I think that they're still holding these. But yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna get off now, but I will reply to everyone's messages and just check whatever you guys want me to check. And I'm gonna be online available, but I'm gonna get off the live stream just so I can get some other stuff done. But I do appreciate you guys very much for letting me jump on and listening to me ramble for an hour. If you guys have any questions, or if you're interested, I do have a referral link in my bio for black box stocks. So this is the platform that I've been showing you guys all night. It's very useful. I use it every single day. This gives me push notifications to my phone and also my Apple Watch, which is awesome because if you're out doing stuff, you'll get notifications on unusual options flow. So if you are interested, there's a black box stocks link right here on my page. So if anyone's interested, you guys can take a look at that. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna end it here, and then I'm gonna get to everyone's requests. But I really appreciate you guys jumping on, let me do this, and hopefully you guys learn.